Welcome to the Architecture Corner. Today is our guest Wikstrand, Enterprise Architect at Capgemini. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So today we are going to talk about...
Well, I was scanning LinkedIn and Twitter and I found something very interesting. You've heard a story about the CFO asking the CEO, what happens if we invest in developing our people and then they leave us? And the CEO asks, what happens if we don't and they stay? I heard a different version of that one the other day, and it was, what happens if we invest in making our people agile and then they discover that we're not?
Yeah. And what happened with the company then, do you think?
What happens with the company? What happens if we don't invest in being more agile? And what happens then? Well, what will happen is that the market will run by you.
Is it the difference today than a few years ago, so you have to think in another way?
I did a little study of this. How agile do you need to be? In 1970, the change rate in a typical IT project was about 1% per year, no, per month. 1% per month. In 1980, it was about 2%. In 2000, in the .com era, the change rate was about 10%, and now it's 20% per month. So what happens? I did a little calculation that shows that if you accumulate the changes starting with 1% per month, how long does it take until you have 100% scope change? It takes about 5 years. But if you have a 20% change rate, how long does it take before you have 100% change? It's 3.5 months. So in a typical consumer-oriented web application, smartphone application, etc., can have a change rate that makes everything you did obsolete in 3 months.
Yeah. Is it a difference between businesses that sell to other businesses or businesses that sell to consumers and the public sector? Are they different in this aspect or not?
I don't know. What do you think?
I think that the consumer segment is much more volatile than the business-to-business segment, and the public sector is a little bit behind. That's my guessing.
I think this is where we come into architecture, and I think what we need to do is we need to separate, what are the volatile parts and put them in one place, and what are the stable parts and put that in another place. So we can build the applications we need to meet the things that happen, but that we have a solid architecture in terms of what our data is and our information and how we're processing that, because that really doesn't change very much. You still have some stuff and then you sell it and so on.
So you think that we should have 2 IT organizations then? Is that what you say?
2-speed IT, yes, that's one solution. I think there was a Gartner report about that a few years ago, for instance. That could be one solution. We have been talking about that, we have the base plate of IT where we're trying to cut costs and trying to standardize and then we have this other part of IT where we're innovation based, where we're meeting the changes in the marketplace. And yes, maybe that can be done in 2 different organizations, or maybe it's just a stupid idea to let, you do the boring stuff, we do the interesting stuff.
What about outsourcing then? It has been a drive to outsourcing for the last 10 years, a lot of it, and often to offshore places. Does this have an influence?
Does it have an influence, outsourcing? I think outsourcing is a big enabler for both cost saving and innovation driving. you know, what they usually say is that people come for the price, but they stay for the quality. And that's what you want in an outsourcing, to save a little bit on price, but to gain a much larger talent pool than what you have in your local area.
So if you want to be agile, should that be done outsourcing, or should that be done within your organization? Should you have an IT part within your business organization that handles the things that have to be very fast changes?
I think IT organizations have been slower in the past, and I think that the pace will pick up significantly for anyone who wants to stay in an IT organization. It's going to be a lot based on standardization and using cloud services. It's not just to cut costs, it's also to have a more standardized way of working. There are so many of our customers that have, instead of having one solution for a problem, they have 5 or 10 or whatever, because they were developed in different departments, and or there was a merger or whatever, and then they have to maintain, to get the same benefit, they have to maintain 10 times the same thing, and of course that makes everything very expensive and very slow. And if you change in one place, you can't really do that. You have to change in all 10 different places, and then all the connected places. And I think those are things that are slowing down IT a lot more than if it's outsourced or not. I wrote a blog post on it a while back on being no special needs for IT.
That you need to have faster changes. Is this something the IT department and the business side knows about now and know how to do, or is it just something they have been feeling the pain of?
Many customers approach us and say that we are not agile enough. We need to be more agile. But we see so many blockers. We see blockers in our current landscape. We see blockers in how we're running projects. We see blockers in how we manage our project portfolio. What can we do to change that? And there are so many things that you need to change before you truly become agile. Agile is not something you do in the IT department, really. The part of Agile that you do in the IT department is often not about being a business Agile. It is about having a solid platform to stand on which you can build rapidly. And have a quality that allows you to change course, so you don't let the quality drop all the time and then struggle to get it back for your quarterly release, and then you let it drop again. So Agile in the IT department is about having better quality, better control, so that you can change when you need to change. When your competitor comes with a new feature, how long do you have until you need to have the same feature or something else that attracts the customers? How many weeks or months or years can you afford to fall behind your competitor?
Do we have any good examples of where they have had these problems they can talk about?
I can give you an example of where they did not have a problem. When Google released Google+, one of the main things about it compared to the competitors was that they had these groups. So you could fine-tune when you shared, to whom you shared. It took about 2-3 weeks, I think, before Facebook had more or less the same feature.
So they have an agile way of working?
It seems so.
Yeah.
I think that is based on the architecture they have behind.
Yeah. So it's both the IT architecture, but if I understand you right, it's also about the ways of working and the governance that you have in the IT department and how you work together with the business side. Is that the right understanding?
to be successful, I have another interesting blog post on this. They did a study in Brazil in 400 different IT organizations to see which ones were the most successful, and they found that there were 3 things that you need to do to be successful. Number 1 is to have all the processes, methods, and tools in order. That's like a hygiene factor. That will take you a long way, but it won't take you all the way. The other thing that you need is to have a good culture in the organization that is permissive and innovative, and where you focus on good things rather than on bad things. And the third thing, which I think was most interesting, was that the most successful IT organizations were those that put a lot of weight on having a good relationship with their suppliers. And I think most would have guessed customers, and of course that's another hygiene factor. But those 3 things, having order in how you work and work according to best practices, having a culture that promotes success rather than punishes failure, and having a good relationship with your partners, that's what signifies the top organizations in IT.
So is it something you can measure?
I think one of the easiest measures is time to market. It is if you decide that you really want to do something differently, how long does it take before you have deployed it, before it's available to your customers? From decision that this is what we really need to do until it's available to your customers, how long is that time? And I think that's a good measure of Agile. Another measure that I also want to include is time to fix. And that is when you have a critical bug, how long before the fix is deployed in production? Is it a quarter? Is it a week? Is it an hour? And it should be an hour or half an hour or whatever. If your business is depending on IT being up and running, and mostly it is, then you can't afford to wait, and you can't afford to take chances on putting a fix into production if it isn't well tested. So of course, what I'm saying is basically, to stay up, you need to use DevOps.
Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you.